Hey Wargamers, welcome back to the channel, Death from Above Wargaming. I'm Aaron, coming back at you with some more great BattleTech quarantine content to keep you occupied on these otherwise not so exciting days. Good news, bringing back the battle report, except I got nobody to play with. So, the brilliant minds at DFA Wargaming put our heads together and we came up with an idea that I call a tactical report. So what is that? Well, essentially, I'm going to play a game of BattleTech. Tonight I'm going to be doing Alpha Strike, except that I'm going to be playing both sides, the attacker and the defender. It's going to be run very much like a battle report, with the big exception that we're going to be delving into the tactics, the decisions that I'm making, why I'm moving mechs in a certain order, why I'm selecting my targets, how I'm thinking about the terrain and the mission, putting all the different puzzle pieces together to give you guys a little bit of insight into what happens behind the scenes when the camera is not rolling. So hopefully you find this exciting. It's a double whammy though, because not only am I going to be bringing you this, also you get a sneak peek at one of our new exciting missions, CONQUEST. So this is one of the Hyperpulse uplinks. Kevin and I talked about this one. We got two more coming out. I don't know if they're going to drop before or after this battle report, but either way, we're going to start with CONQUEST tonight to give you guys a sneak peek at how that mission is played as well, and some of the tactics around that. So pretty cool stuff. Let's talk about the forces, and then we'll get into the fluff. All right, so guys, tonight we are going to be going inside the Robinson Battle Academy, the famed Battle Academy in House Davion. We're going to be following a team of cadets in one of their final exams, and they will be facing off against the Death Commandos in a simulation. Of course, the Death Commandos here are controlled by instructors at the Battle Academy. But let's talk about the forces here. So on the FedSun side, I've selected the following. We have a Wolfhound 1A. So this mech, in this mission, this is going to be my objective grabber. It moves pretty good, but it's also tough, not easy to bring down. So I think that'll be good for an objective grabbing mech. I've also got a quick draw 4G. So this mech, an excellent heavy mech, I think much better in Alpha Strike actually than it is in Classic. It's got a nice spread of weapons, can deal damage at long range. Nothing on the extreme side, but still. Also jump jets, very critical. This will be probably my second most important objective grabber. Now in the backfield, I'm going to have a Whitworth WTH-1. So this is the one with the twin LRM-10s, 3 medium lasers. This is a fairly stout mech. It does 2 points of damage all the way out to long range and 1 point at extreme range. So really this is going to be my backfield objective holder. This is how I plan on playing this mech. It does have jump jets, so it gives me some added mobility and again, some good toughness as well. I can overheat if the enemy closes in, if I need to get a kill shot. So good defensive mech, I think, there. And then my leader is in a Caesar, the Lance leader on the FedSun side. So this is actually a new mech on the channel. Excited to field this. This mech is offensively devastating. 4 at short range, 4 at medium, can shoot all the way out to extreme range. I think the real weak spot here is once you peel off those 6 points of armor, it's only got 3 structure because, again, packing that XL engine. So we'll see how this mech plays out, but again, excited to use that. Okay, now on the Capellan side. So what I'm using here first is a Charger. So Charger 1A9, this is an assault mech. It moves 4, does have jump jets. Similar to the Caesar in that it's got very strong short and medium range firepower, can shoot all the way out to extreme range as well. Doesn't do it quite as much as the Caesar, but on the flip side it's way tougher. It does have 5 pips of armor, but it has a full 6 points on the internal structure, so this thing is going to be tough to take down. In addition, I have an Enforcer 5D. So this mech, it moves very quickly. Now this is the 3050 refit. It does have an XL engine, so it moves 5 inches with jump jets, can sprint 8. I don't think I'm going to use this one in the backfield. I think I might push up with this mech, try to shield it with the Charger, and just let it do some damage there. I also have a little guy here, a Locust 1M. So I chose the M. The M in Classic is awful, but in Alpha Strike it's actually pretty good, and one of the most expensive Locust variants you can actually buy. at least in the in the clan invasion era. So it's light on armor, 1 pip of armor, 2 points of structure. So if you sneeze on it, it will explode. However, it can do 1 point of damage all the way out at long range, 2 points at medium. So really the goal for this mech is probably to keep this thing in the backfield, keep it moving to keep that TMM up, hold one of those, probably the HQ or one of those objectives down, and just drop an LRM fire and try to just plink away at targets of opportunity as I can. The last mech in my Death Commandos force is the Griffin. This is a skill 2 pilot, very good mobility. So moves 5 inches, does have jump jets, and this 3M refit has a very good damage profile. So 2, 3, 3, 2, 5 points of armor, 3 points of structure. So interested to see how this one plays. Excited to play this one on the table. I like the new Griffin model too. Got that, of course, from the new box set at Ares Games and Minis. Guys, if you haven't worked with Derek before, shoot him an email, check him out on Facebook, pick up something from his store. I'm telling you, best customer service on the internet. I stand by that. All right, so guys, there you have it. We looked at the forces. We talked a little bit about the mission, and I sort of touched on the fluff. So tonight, again, going inside the Robinson Battle Academy to take a look at a training simulation, and thus we will begin our first tactical report. So guys, stay tuned. BattleTech coming your way.
Listen up, cadets. This is your final exam. Now while your instructors are sitting in the cockpits, the mechs on the other side of this battle grid, I assure you, we will not take it easy. We're going to aim to kill. We're going to look to win. You want to serve the Federated sons with honor, you need to prove you deserve it.
Roger that. Hydra here. Check in.
Slapshot here. Missiles hot.
Joker, checking in.
Toaster here. I'm ready.
All units, stay in a defensive posture. Head to 138. Form up and follow my lead.
All right, guys, here we are after setting up the objectives. So a couple of important things I wanted to go over before we dove into deployment. So per the mission rules, each team, starting with the defender, needs to place objectives. First an HQ, then the attacker places the HQ, then the defender places a firebase, attacker places a firebase. So basically alternate placing 4 key objectives. If you're not playing in a campaign, you would roll off and the winner gets to choose whether they want to be the attacker or the defender. So in this case, I rolled the Death Commandos won that roll off, and so they decided they wanted to be the attacker. And when I say they, I mean I have a disposition for choosing defender because I think picking your side and really controlling how you deploy is one of the most important things in the game. So they chose this side here, the Death Commandos. And so the first thing they had to do was place their HQ. I chose this region here. Now this is slightly within this forest. And I did that for a couple of reasons. One, I can keep a unit within 3 inches of this objective and have line of sight to support the right flank here, where I know that I was going to place my firebase, because again, everybody has to place the firebase on their respective right-hand edge. And also to this lane, which would presumably be where the Federated Sons was going to place their firebase as well. So basically, whatever I put back here, which is probably going to be the Locust, has great line of sight. So this is a defensible area. It can protect. If the unit gets damaged, they can move deeper into the woods to try to mitigate line of sight and add that defensive bonus to hit. So that was the first maneuver. Now on the flip side, the Federated Sons deploying their HQ all the way back there. And they did that because there is a level 2 hill here that will provide some cover. I am planning on deploying the Whitworth back there, so it can provide, again, that fire support out to extreme range, out to 30 inches, and still claim perhaps some cover from the hill. So looking forward to taking advantage of that. Next, the Death Commandos had to place their fire base. It did need to be generally in this area here. I put it up on the level 2 hill. I debated on actually putting it a little closer out, because this is sort of at the nearest edge that I could go, just so that any mechs that we're scrapping here could have a straight shot in. I don't know. I wanted to really just keep it within a decent range of this fire base, or of this HQ rather. So this way, again, that unit, probably the Locust, could come here and support. In fact, if I felt like I was getting overrun here, I could actually escape and get over to there. If I do decide to deploy units on this side, I could also be up on this level 2 hill and see over the forest. So remember, at DFA, we play with level 3 woods. And then lastly, the Fed Sons placed their firebase. Now I put this a little bit in the open here. I could have tucked it behind this cluster of buildings here, this little city, but I really opted to just put it right on the main road so I could support it, potentially from that Whitworth, right, behind the hill there at the HQ. So anyway, that's sort of the thought pattern. I think placing the HQs is really critical. The fire bases I had a little less to think about because there's not a whole lot of terrain on this side over here, or on this side, over here. All right. So next up, we're going to roll right into deployment. One important note, guys, special sort of deployment rule for this mission. You can place 25% of your force within a certain distance of the firebase, and 50% within your HQ, and then any number that you choose can move in normally from your table edge. So it's intriguing. I may deploy something all the way out here. I may not. I have to see. I got to think about it. Obviously, if I deploy a unit out here, it does have a straight shot to the HQ. I got to think about this a little bit more. The Capellans do have to deploy first, since they are the defenders, and we will just be moving right on or placing. So the first thing I want to talk about is my broader Capellan strategy here. What I'm going to do is this. I'm going to drop the Locust here, right next to the HQ. I'm going to do that probably last, and I'll tell you why. The second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drop my Griffin here, and I'm going to do that first. I'm going to do that to deter any sort of attack coming from this side to just... I don't want to give the illusion that I'm leaving this undefended, but actually that is my plan, because I'm going to run this Griffin down here in probably 1 or 2 turns. I have a clear 5-inch jump across the forest, and he's right in the fight. I'm really going to make a hard push for this objective here. So the first thing I'm going to do is deploy the most obvious unit. I'm going to deploy probably one of the slowest units that I can. I do want to get the Charger a little bit of a head start, so I'm actually going to deploy the Charger right here by the HQ. I have no intention of leaving him there. That's what I'm going to do. My first move to get out of the woods line is sort of around these trees. I'm going to do a quick 4-inch jump, get him out, and then I can sprint him the rest of the way. That'll give him a little bit of a head start again because he is the slowest unit on the Capellan side. Okay, so on the Davian side, I have some choices here. I have really 3 objectives that I'm looking at. I know I need to defend my HQ. I know that I need to get units out to sort of protect my fire base, although I don't know whether or not I want to make a push for their HQ through the forest, or if I want to try to just make a run for that objective there. So what I'm going to do is first talk about the broad strategy here. I want to put my heavy hitters over here. I want to get the Caesar and the quick draw, I think the quick draw nestled in here. I want that Caesar to be able to bring its extreme firepower to bear, extreme range firepower, and do as much damage as I can early on in the game, and also potentially use these buildings as cover. Remember, you just have to be within 3 inches of the objective to claim it, so I should be able to use those buildings, at least to some degree. I'm definitely putting the Whitworth here. The Wolfhound, I don't know, it is fast, but it's not really fast enough to do like a left to right feint. Like if I deploy him over here and I decide to bring him back across, he's going to be out of the fight for too long because he only has medium range firepower. So I'm not sure what I'm doing with the Wolfhound yet. I'm going to wait and see how this plays out. But I think the first thing that's probably obvious, again, I want to make my most obvious deployments first because I don't want to reveal my hand yet. I don't want to reveal my strategy. Is just placing the Whitworth within 1 inch of my HQ, and I'm going to put him right here. Okay, so back on the Capellan side, the next thing that I am going to do is I'm going to move my Enforcer onto the board, and I'm going to do that like so. The Enforcer is going to be in an aggressive posture. I'm going to sprint him. I'm going to keep him a little bit behind these rocks. They might provide some cover, these boulders here. So when he sprints, a couple of things. Remember, they move 1.5 times their listed movement. The only difference between the rules as written and our house rule is that we like the idea that you can't shoot, your head's down, dodging and weaving. So we wanted to up the TMM by 1. So that does 2 things. One, it allows sprinting to be a little more potent of a tool in the toolbox, right? Because it does bump your TMM up, it makes you harder to hit. And most importantly, it puts it right in line with classic BattleTech. So when you move 8 inches in classic BattleTech or 8 hexes, you claim a +3 modifier, right? So same thing here now. So I like that a lot, and that's that. Okay, so on the Federated Sun side, now I see that they're definitely making a move for my fire base. It's pretty clear with the Enforcer. So I'm going to, in turn here, deploy my Wolfhound and make an aggressive move for their fire base. So the Wolfhound, I don't want to put him all the way, on like this side of the board here, because again, getting all the way back across would be difficult. I want to keep him a little bit close to the Whitworth, but let's see what we can do here. So I think we'll sprint him, just doing some measurement here. Basically, if I move him on a corner there, or, yeah. So I think we're going to get him right here. So I'll spend the 1 inch to go down the hill, and he sprinted. And there he is, so we marked him up. One important thing about our markers, basically, guys, black is stationary, yellow means they sprint, the white die is their TMM. If they don't have a white die, it means they don't have a TMM. Sometimes we might use a blank one to remind ourselves if their TMM has been reduced from movement penalties or something like that, but that's how that works. All right, so back on the Capellan side, what I want to do here is a couple of things, right? So I want to deploy my Locust, and obviously I can't put him, I could put him near the HQ, but I don't want to. I want to kind of make them think that he's coming, because he can sprint 12. I can get back in here, no problem. So I might put the Locust over here, but the question is, do I deploy my Griffin first? Because if I put my Griffin here or here, the Federated Suns might deploy more forces to support that Wolfhound. It may also prematurely flush that Wolfhound out. And remember, you start scoring on turn 2. Maybe I'll just move the Locust. Actually, one thing I could do, here you go, here's some tactics for you, is I can move the Locust here to make them think I'm going for the fire base. And then what I can do is turn them in. Even with the Forest, that Locust can easily get in there next turn. So that is actually, I think, a good move. That's what we're going to do. So guys, hopefully you understand the thought pattern there. This is a feint move. The Locust coming out here. They'll think that the Wolfhound is going to win that fight, and I don't want any additional support to be on this side, because again, what I want to do is I want to be able to bring the Griffin in, get some early shots on that Wolfhound as it moves across, and drive the fight more to this side of the board here, so that I can get that fire base and keep that thing protected. Okay, so this is where the decision comes in. There's not a lot of guesswork in the Caesar, and maybe I should have deployed the Caesar before the Wolfhound, but we'll see. So I'm going to actually deploy the Caesar along this edge. It's going to come sprinting in basically right to here. This is the last move. We know what we're doing here. So I think what I want to do is put the Griffin here. Okay. So, and I'm going to angle him just straight on the Wolfhound. I think, you know, that'll give him the idea that that Griffin is going to be ready to open fire. Okay. Now, lastly, the quick draw. I mean, see, I don't see a lot of threat here to this. You know, and if I'm playing this, you know, objectively, and I'm playing against a live player, you know, I would honestly deploy the quick draw here, right in this range, so that I have the option to split this way, right? And I'm going to probably press next turn towards this objective, but if I need to, I can come in and cut off that Enforcer and provide some supporting fire for the Caesar. But I feel pretty confident that the Caesar can handle the Charger, you know, and the Enforcer, at least with the Whitworth here providing some support. So that is the end of turn 1 movement. Here we are shooting turn 1, the Griffin just within, actually just outside of long range, so at extreme range really. It's going to need an 8 to hit against that Wolfhound. Again, it is skill 2, -1 for being stationary. Does 2 points of damage at extreme range. Here we go. Ouch. All right, so that's 2 points of damage to that Wolfhound right out of the gate. All right, the Whitworth sighting down that Griffin across the snowy plain here. Whitworth is a slap shot. Looking at a 3 skill. That Griffin has no TMM, so just needs a 7 here to drop in some juicy LRMs. Can we get it? We do. All right, so both teams opening up. The Cadets dealing their first point of damage against the Capellans. Moving on to turn 2. All right, guys, it is turn 2. Missiles are already flying. We are basically on the Capellan side. They lost initiative by a substantial margin. So I'm going to stick with, you know, that notion of not revealing my hand, right? I want to keep my strategy tight as long as I can. So the first mech that I'm going to move here is my Enforcer. So my overall movement plan, Enforcer's moving up, Charger's moving up. I'm going to bring the Locust back, and I'm going to start bringing that Griffin across. So that's going to hopefully work out in my favor, although it does look like the Fed Sons are stacked on this side. If they do decide to move 2 mechs to this objective, I'll have them outnumbered over here. So it would be sort of an even swap, but I think their HQ is going to be easier to tackle than the Capellan one. So first thing here that I'm going to do, probably my move order on this side, depending on what the Federated Sons do, is going to move the Enforcer, the Charger, the Locust, and then the Griffin. I think the Griffin is sort of the more surprising maneuver of all of them. So starting out with this Enforcer, I'm going to move him 8. I'm going to sprint again. Well, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe actually I'm going to do a standard ground move here because he does have extreme range capabilities. So I'm going to risk, you know, getting pounded here. I can forego the extra TMM. It's got a 2 just standard, so that's pretty good. So that's what we're going to do with the Enforcer. All right, the Cadets of the Robinson Battle Academy up now. Likely going to move the Whitworth first. Now remember, turn 2 is when you start scoring in Conquest, similar to some of the other missions that we have, like Seize Ground, right? So I need to keep them within 3 inches of this objective. But I do want to see if I can get some fire on either that Enforcer or that Griffin that's coming across. I'm going to spend the 1 to go up the hill, and I'm just going to put my Whitworth right there. Okay, onto the Charger now. I could jump him out to here, and if I do that, I could potentially get a shot off. Actually, if I jump him a little further, I might be able to get a shot off on that Whitworth. It would be a tough one. If I am right on the edge of the forest here, so I could move out of it, you know, spend 1 inch to do that and get him there, and actually end up basically being the same. So that's what I'm going to do. We're going to move 1 inch out of the forest and then 3 inches up like that. That way, even if there ends up being a little bit of forest in play in the line of sight, and we'll check that later, +1 for, the +1 from the forest is much better than the +2 from jumping. So that's my thought pattern there. All right, so a savvy player would immediately notice they pulled the charger off the objective. Either they're not thinking and they forgot that they need to score, which happens, or they've got something else up their sleeve. Either way, I do notice there's a strong, sort of armor column coming up the road here in the form of the Enforcer and the Charger. So I need to be cautious about putting that Caesar in harm's way, but I do want to make sure that I keep them off that objective. So the Caesar's just about at extreme range, so I could just do a regular walk move here, get the Caesar within range of that Enforcer and call it a day. I think that's probably the best thing that I can do there. Okay, so far so good. Things seem to be as planned. Now I feel like if I move my locust to the left, what I want to mitigate is any potential scenario where the Griffin gets caught out alone, right? Remember, this locust does have some decent long-range firepower, so I want to put him in a position where he can both cap the objective and provide some light fire support. So if I measure 3 from the base, it puts me somewhere in the grove here. So the locust does have about 6 inches to there, so I could probably move him 7 in total. Let me see if that puts me within. It does. So I'm going to put the locust right about there. So from this side of the board, it really looks like the locust was just moved into the trees to block some line of sight from the quick draw, maybe even like an oopsie, I got to cover the base move this turn. I still would not think that the Griffin would be disengaging from this flank. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to try to collapse on it a little bit with the quick draw. I don't want to move the quick draw or commit him left to right yet. So I got a little bit of a hill here, so I can move 4 inches, spend 1 to go up. All right, he gets his normal TMM. This way he can put some heat on that Griffin, but if needed, I don't know, am I within range? I'm not, unfortunately. That lack of extreme range is tough. So I'm not in range of the Enforcer or anything else, but hopefully we'll be able to hit the Griffin this turn. Okay, so this is the point of the game where I really wish the Capellans had won initiative, because that Wolfhound would have had to make their move before the Griffin. Maybe could have baited it in a little bit deeper. Quick Draw playing a smart, safe game, but regardless, that Griffin's going to make the move. Now, when I initially calculated this, it was sprinting, right? So I was doing 1 sprint basically right to the tree line and then jumping across. I don't think I need to do that. In fact, what I think I'm going to do is move him 4 down the hill, spend 1 to go down 1 level. He's still on a level 1 hill. And that puts him in a nice range. Here I can either shoot the quick draw at long range for 3 points, depending on where the Wolfhound goes. I can hit that guy too. So, not fully committed off that flank yet, so hopefully we'll keep those Federats on their toes, but there we have it. Okay, so the other important thing about choosing when to move your mechs is the ones that are substantially damaged, I typically like to move last because they're the most at-risk mechs. Now, not always. There are times where it just doesn't matter, but in this case, really that Wolfhound is valuable to me. It's early game. It's already lost 50% of its armor, so I need to keep it safe. I want to look at the Griffin's fire arc here. I'm looking at 21-inch line around here. So if I really want to get out to this objective and continue to threaten it, what I would consider doing is moving my Wolfhound to here. I think that is still within extreme range, but it is within. So really, it is this line of the hill. So I guess what I need to do is kind of move the Wolfhound to here. I'm going to choose to keep them conservative at the extreme range there on that Griffin. Hopefully the Griffin picks another target like the quick draw, but we'll see. Guys, shooting turn 2 coming right up. Kicking it off here for the Death Commandos. The Charger firing down at that Whitworth. It is extreme range. Going to need 9s to hit. It is going through the majority of the forest. And even if it wasn't, there's questionable partial cover. So either way, I would give that a +1. So total target number here is a 9. So that's a miss. The second mech to shoot is the Enforcer. The Enforcer also going through that hill at the Whitworth. Definitely partial cover there, so this is going to need a 9. No forest in the way, though. So just a straight up 9, and that's a miss. The hope there was really to start crippling that backfield. That would give us the opportunity to kind of sweep around into that HQ. Again, that's worth 2 objective points per turn. So let's see what else the Capellans have up their sleeve. Okay, so the last mech that has line of sight here is the Griffin. The decision was going to be either the Wolfhound or the Whitworth. Now, if I had dealt substantial damage to the Whitworth, I would have went there, but instead I'm going to try to continue to chip away at that Wolfhound and make it paranoid. So what do I need here? So 2, 5, and then extreme range is going to be 9. So let's see what we can do here. Oh, man. Luck with the cadets. So speaking of the Battle Academy, let's head over to the other side of the table and see what kind of damage they can do. Alright, so again, starting with the mechs that have the most limited options, right? We want to basically maximize our tactical flexibility here. So the Caesar's going to kick us off. Hydra is going to shoot at that Enforcer. She needs 8s to hit. So here we go. 2 points at extreme range, not too shabby. And I get nothing. Alright, next up is that quick draw Joker. He has 1 point of damage at extreme, at long range. It's nothing at extreme, but we are within 18 inches. So needs an 8 to hit. Here we go. Finally. Again, so 1 point of damage to that Griffin. So that's going to influence where that Whitworth goes. The Whitworth was looking either at the Enforcer or the Griffin. But I think what we're going to do is we're going to keep putting fire on that Griffin. Now the Griffin is just within the woods, so I'm going to pay that +1 penalty. So there is about 1 hex, 1 sort of inch, at least up to 1 inch of woods that it's passing through. So that Whitworth is actually going to need, I believe, a 9 to hit. There we go. Slap shot coming through, laying in the LRMs. That Griffin taking 2 points of damage this turn. All right, guys, here we are, end of turn 2. Just looking at the scoring, we have each team in possession of at least one of their own objectives. Nobody controlling any enemy objectives yet. So each team walking away with 1 objective point this turn. All right, Wargamers, it is turn 3. Action is happening here. So the Capellans lost initiative again, roll off of 6 to 9. And sort of things are getting a little complicated here. I don't like what's happening to my Griffin. It is getting chewed up at range. I think the counter deployment on the Fed Sun side was really good, and so that's putting a little bit of a thorn into my side here. But this turn, I should be able to isolate most of the fire coming in from the Whitworth and that quick draw, unless that quick draw really commits to that, to my right flank, its left flank, right? Basically this side. If the quick draw moves here, then I'll have it, right? I'll be able to kind of get over and maybe isolate the Whitworth or the Caesar. So I want to save again the Griffin for last. What I think I'm actually going to do to start is just move that Locust ever so slightly. Now this thing, again, does have long-range firepower, so that's about as far as I could get it. I do need to move it at least an inch to get its full TMM, so I can easily make a walk move to say here. And again, these interior trees don't really matter. They're for decoration. It's this exterior line that we're looking at here. So still within the forest, kind of right on the edge there. In fact, I might not be able to move it up anymore. Yeah, I can, just a little bit to get it right on the edge there, so it doesn't take a penalty firing out, and that'll be good. And that way it gets its TMM, and we're good to go. All right, so on the Robinson Battle Academy Cadet team here, what do we want to do? Well, again, this Wolfhound actually made out well last round. The Griffin took 2 points, it took none, so I feel really good about that. I think the plan is to continue moving along this battle grid edge here. I don't know what to do with the quick draw yet. I think it's going to depend on how they move the rest of their lance. What I can tell you is that this Whitworth, much like the Locust, really doesn't have very far to go. I think maybe I could just slightly reposition it, and I might actually do that still claim the stationary mod. I don't know if I want to get the +1 or not. I think it really depends on where the Charger and the Enforcer go. So maybe what I'll do is I'll move the Caesar first. And I'm not actually even going to move it the full range because I don't need to be on that objective yet. All right, the Enforcer I think is the next guy I want to move here. So the error in the Caesar's way, as now I stand on the other side of the table and really look, is that I can move the Enforcer this way and totally block line of sight from incoming fire to the Enforcer, and be able to sort of channel my firepower into the center area here where the Whitworth and the Quick Draw are currently holding that hill. Now they may move, but I think that's regardless what I want to do. So I'm going to move him to here, right within this little sort of courtyard fence. And we'll mark him up with a +2 for TMM, as it was just a standard move there. Good to go. Okay, so now I have to do a little bit of thinking. Again, that Whitworth, potentially not in a great spot. Now, if I move the Whitworth to here, I guess that Enforcer still can draw line of sight, as can the Charger. So if I move the Whitworth down here, getting down to model's eye view, I definitely would be okay. So I think I'm going to do that. And what that's going to do is put more forest in between me and that Charger. And also, I have a better angle, I think, to the Griffin as I backed up a little bit off the trees. So hopefully that will help out. I feel like that's probably a solid move for the Whitworth. Still within 3 inches of my HQ, so I'll claim that objective point without question, unless somehow that Whitworth gets knocked out of commission. Seems unlikely, but let's go back to the Capellan side. All right, simple decision for the Charger. Just going to barrel it up right up the middle here. Can have line of sight both to that Caesar and to that sort of center group there, the Whitworth and the Quick Draw. Now, what's more important on the Cadet side, keeping that Wolfhound alive or sort of having that decision and committing one way or the other with the Quick Draw? Now, I could freeze the Quick Draw and have him just plant and choose targets depending on where that Griffin moves, or I could just be aggressive with the Wolfhound and get him in range. In that regard, I'm just going for it. I'm not going to sprint. I'm just going to make a normal run move, and I'm actually going to bank him in a little bit, spend 1 to get him downhill. I'm going to pray to God. All right, now here's the Griffin. So here's what I am going to do. Sticking with the plan, trying to separate. What I think I'm going to do, though, is not jump or sprint. I'm just going to move right into the edge of the forest here. I don't have enough MP to actually get in, but for now, this is just a standard move for the Griffin. He'll claim his +2 TMM. It does offer some nice isolation, and it's going to make the decision for the Quick Draw here very difficult. Okay, so basically I can do one of 3 things. I can break out to this side to provide supporting fire for the Wolfhound. If I don't do that, he's going to get attacked. He's going to get nuked by both the Locust and the Griffin. I'm not sure he will. I mean, he'll probably survive, but I don't know if he'll be in great shape. I mean, we're talking internal, we're talking critical hits. If the opponent's smart, they'll shoot with the Griffin first to strip any remaining armor and potentially generate 2 critical hits versus 1. I feel like the opponent's pretty smart, if I do say so myself. The other option is I can go this way and support the Caesar, but I don't feel like I need that yet. What I want to do is actually just move the Quick Draw ahead to here. So in this way, I will have line of sight to the Griffin. I might have to pay a penalty for the forest, but I can still fire at that Enforcer, and I can still change direction. So I'm gonna fail to commit. Again, it does put my Wolfhound at risk because I think they're gonna try to nuke him, but I think that would happen one way or the other. So that is the move for that Quick Draw. And so a few mistakes, both boon and curse. So the Wolfhound I really should have sprinted in retrospect. The Griffin had way too many places to move out of 12-inch range, and the Griffin does a whopping 3 points of damage at long, so it would be stupid to stay, just hover 13 inches at the very least. And the Locust, luckily, since I did not sprint, is actually out of range. So just the Griffin is going to be firing at that Wolfhound. Again, 3 points of damage at long range. It is a TMM of 2 plus skill 2 plus long range. That is going to be a 7 to hit. 50-50. Maybe a little better. Alright, so moving on to the left flank here. So a lot of cat and mouse here. Remember, I moved this Enforcer first, hoping to get a shot on the Whitworth. But the Whitworth made such a move around the hill that more than 66% of the mech is covered, just the head sticking out. And by Alpha Strike rule, you are not allowed to shoot at that target. It's considered basically fully covered at that point, no line of sight. So we are going to begin firing the Enforcer, but it's going to be shooting across through the woods here at this quick draw. That's a pretty decent shot of opportunity. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Here we go. Just misses. So moving on to the Charger now. The Charger has a clear line of sight to the Caesar there on the other side of the battlefield. So this is going to be also an 8 because it's extreme range. And also, yeah, just 1 point of damage here. Here we go. But that lands. So 1 point of damage on the Caesar, but otherwise the Death Commandos not being too effective here on turn 3. Robinson Battle Academy up next. So this Wolfhound again, Toaster, just making a rookie mistake here. But, paid the price in armor, but luckily the structure's still intact. So can't hit anything, but this quick draw can. So Joker firing through the trees at the Griffin, just in medium range here. So again, potentially another miscalculation on my part. Really should have been looking for that crossfire. Could have backed the Griffin out, maybe. But regardless, that quick draw does 3 dice at this range, and it's going to need an 8 though. It's not necessarily an easy shot. The Griffin moves well, plus the cover from the trees. But let's see what we can get here. Not great. Just 1 point of damage. Groans of disbelief. But the Whitworth also has a shot here, shooting through the woods. It's a tough shot, but it is long range. Also going to need, actually needs 9s here. So here we go. Look at that, man. This guy is a legend here on DFA, and you know why now. So 2 more points of damage on that Griffin. So that is 1 pip internal. We're going to get a critical hit roll. What can we get? Something good, I hope. Oh, so close. So close, yet so far away. So no critical hit. The Capellan leader lives to fight another day, but Hydra in her Caesar looking for some retribution down here. Firing right down the alleyway at that Charger. Needs 7s to hit. Seems doable at extreme range. Here we go.
This is unbelievable.
Does not seem doable. Alright, so that's a miss. That brings us to the end of shooting on turn 3. Now talking about objective points, guys, still 1-1. The Whitworth holding that, the Locust holding that, and no enemies holding friendly objectives or vice versa. And so that's that, guys. We will wrap up this turn and move on to turn 4. We are back. It is turn 4, and the tide is turned in favor of the Death Commandos, who finally won initiative here. And it was a turn they really needed it, as I had mentioned in the last turn. So the cadets of the Robinson Battle Academy need to make the first move here. What is it going to be? So I think sticking with the plan of and the overall strategy of moving the units that are most predictable or least damaged or least impactful to the overall battle, I'm going to stick with moving the Whitworth first. And in fact, I think the Whitworth has pretty good line of sight. There is some obfuscation happening here where I probably would not be able to see a unit if it was in this this spot of the map. But I don't think anything is going to get here, right? Because this level 2 hill is going to move there, block the line of sight. I think that if the Enforcer moves out and around, it will be in this range. So I'm going to take the risk here, and I'm just going to plant the Whitworth still. Okay, so similarly here, thinking about just planting that Locust, but the difference between the Locust and the Whitworth is that the Locust, if you look at it funny, it disintegrates. So I think I still need to move it to keep that TMM up. wondering maybe just kind of moving it back where it was before, which is a little bit deeper in the forest, admittedly, so it would take a penalty shooting out. But I do think that might be the right play. So we're going to move the locust to here and mark it up with its TMM of 3. Okay, so I really want to make an aggressive advance with this Caesar. I'm starting to feel like I need to get more points than just controlling my own objectives, and I most certainly can't afford to have them in control of one of mine. So I want to get that Caesar up. I'm actually going to move it out to the right because at this point I want to try to prevent that enforcer from having line of sight. So I am going to move to here. I'm going to pivot it just a little bit so that she can see down that main corridor, maybe keep that enforcer isolated, or again, it'll have to kind of draw out a little bit further. But I want to see if I can knock down that charger a bit more, put some fire on it. All right, so speaking of the charger, so I can get here. The hill doesn't quite, I don't have to crest the hill yet. So I'm just going to put the charger here. Love this giant clunky metal model. Yeah, we'll just mark them up with this TMM of 1. So now I see that charger kind of moving towards the central HQ. Again, could be a bait to pull the quick draw to the right. Don't really know what's happening there, but what I do know is without a doubt that Wolfhound is committed. It's committed to that objective, and there's nobody on it. So if I can move and get in range of that objective, I can score an extra objective point, and that alone would be worth it. But let me see how far away I am. So I am exactly 12 inches. So I'm never, if I was 11 inches, guys, I could make it because I could move, 9, spend the 1 for going up the hill, 8, and then be within range. But I'm not going to be able to get there. So maybe what I'll do this turn, since I know I can't get there, is I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do something cheeky. I'm gonna move them behind this building, do a full sprint. So not only will I get that extra bump on my TMM, but also could potentially be getting some partial cover from the radio tower and that little building down there, whatever that is, the little shed, the communication shed, which I imagine is filled with explosives that the Capellans are going to detonate any second. If I move the Enforcer out and around this way, I could potentially get shots on the quick draw. That may force the quick draw to the right, to my right, out on this side. So if I move the Enforcer to here, I'm thinking maybe that quick draw will see cover here and try to close on the Griffin. Then I can jump that Griffin and be gone. So that's what I'm going to do. I don't know if the quick draw would necessarily bite on that. I can easily make that move. I'm going to do that. Mark up the TMM. I'm good to go. All right, so the Capellan's executing a rather brilliant strategy here, if I do say so myself. It makes me think twice about what I want to do with the quick draw. I'm going to press on that Griffin, and I want to press him hard. Here's why. If I move up here, I have a nice shot at the Griffin. Even if it sprints away, I'll still be at least at long range, or I can get a shot on that Locust. If the Griffin does something crazy, or totally abandons its position, runs through the woods, maybe even jumps, I can press hard on that HQ, and the only thing in between my 60-ton monster and that HQ is a Locust. That Charger's going to have a really hard time, even with jump jets, I think. It's going to take at least 2 turns to catch this quick draw. So in that regard, I am going to commit to this side and hope that I'm not making a mistake here. So of course anything like this is going to make you rethink your strategy, but what would happen if I decided to stay with the Griffin? Well, if I decided to stay, the Griffin would get cooked. Remember, it only has 2 points of structure left. If I try to jump, I block line of sight from the quick draw. I can put myself deep enough in the woods that Whitworth probably won't be able to draw a line of sight, and I can provide some really nice fire across to either the Caesar over here or the Whitworth up the middle, depending on where I position the mech. So I would probably put the Griffin here, face him forward, make sure nobody gets any strange rear arc shots. That should be That should be sufficient. And that's movement, guys. So we are going to get into some action here. Turn 4 shooting coming right up. Robinson Battle Academy. Team Cadet is up first. I think I've outthought myself. So what I'm going to do is something out of the ordinary here, but I really like this maneuver. I'm actually not going to shoot with the Caesar. I'm going to spot with the Caesar to the Griffin, and I'm going to use the indirect fire ability from both the Whitworth and the Quick Draw, each doing having the IF1 ability, so doing 1 point of damage against that Griffin. Now I need 9s to hit, so this is by no means a guarantee, but that is what we're going to do. So here we go. We're going to start with Slapshot. Now remember, that Griffin has 2 pips left. If I can land both of these, that would be a great thing. Here we go. Oh no, so close. So first shot misses. Second shot, here we go. Definitely not. All right, so the Griffin lives to fight another day, heading over to the Capellan side. All right, here we are. The Death Commando plan came to fruition, but I think what happened for me was that Griffin just took too much damage. Very unexpected, but some nice shots landed there by the Whitworth in the backfield. So, it can turn the tide. But I am going to start shooting here with the Charger and the Griffin. Both of these guys, I thought about it. They're both they have hard shots against that Whitworth, much better shots against that Caesar over there. So we're gonna fire on that Caesar. I'm gonna start with the Charger. Charger's at long range, skill 3. So basically, I need 7s to hit here. Oh, unbelievable. Just awful luck. Griffin needs 8s at extreme range, suffering from the jump penalty, but a bit of a better pilot. So here we go. Alright, so 1 hit. I may have actually needed 9s. I need to recalculate that. So let's see, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I actually needed 9s, but 10 will do it. So 1 point of damage on that Caesar. All right, so believe it or not, this Wolfhound actually totally obscured completely. If you get down to the model's eye view, so the Locust has no shot on the Wolfhound, so he will be firing through 3 inches, just a little less than 3 inches of woods. So he's going to need 10s to hit, medium range damage of 2. Here we go. I'm actually going to chain fire these. So chain firing, just roll 2d6 per shot. Nope. And nope. All right, so no damage there. Pretty pitiful showing overall. Now on to turn 5. All right, guys, here we are, turn 5. This is typically one of the more decisive turns. I don't actually see too many mechs at point blank. I think everybody is well spread out. The cadets are very loosely formed up here, spread from one end of the battle grid to the other. The Capellans, on the other hand, really have a nice tight wedge that they're bringing together in the middle here. The Capellans did lose initiative, unfortunate, so they will have to move first. The first thing that I am going to do is move this Locust right back to here. Okay, so on the side of the Battle Academy here, same type of deal. I think what I'm going to do is keep that Whitworth still to the point where I'm almost baiting in enemy fire. This thing hasn't taken any damage yet. I wouldn't mind if they shot at it. I do want to keep that quick draw fresh and that Caesar as well. And in fact, the Caesar will be in range. I think I'm going to plan on moving the Caesar up to hold that base as well. So in case the Whitworth did go down, we would still have that 1 OP being collected from holding at least one of our 2 home bases. Okay, so over on the Capellan side, I'm looking at the opportunities. I see this Enforcer here has a really nice shot. If I sprint, I can actually be contesting this objective here. So I don't want to reveal that yet because I want to see what the Caesar does. But what I'm going to do is move this Charger up. So I didn't pay to go up last round, so I'm going to pay to go up the hill this round, because I was right below the cusp of the hill. So that charger's going to plow ahead 3, and I'll mark it with the TMM there. Now, I think that what I want to do is take this Locust out. If I take the Locust out, they have nothing to hold that base, and so they're going to have a hard time scoring objective points. So I'm going to take my quick draw here. It's going to move right up to about there, and I'm going to mark it, and that's that. Okay, so getting a little bit nervous here. One thing I could do is jump the Griffin back, and it would be within 3 inches of the HQ. This way, if the Locust did get destroyed, I would still hold on to that objective point. So what I might do is jump it back, like I was saying here, and let me make sure, yeah, definitely, if I put it here, well, you know, just within 3 inches, so that all looks good to me. So guys, you can see how the move of the quick draw and forcing that fight up the middle made me rethink the Griffin strategy, but only in conjunction with the Griffin's damage. Honestly, if the Griffin was fresh, I don't think I would care. I would probably just abandon this back objective and try to push real hard for, you know, the enemy HQ or something along those lines, and probably would have moved the Locust further back in the woods. But, you know, again, it's a confluence of things here that's making me now play a little bit more defensively than I had hoped on this side of the table. All right, so I'm 18 inches away from the Locust. That means I'd have to move a full 6 to be able to hit it at medium range. I would only need to move 3 inches to get within the base here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to sprint the mech. We're going to move him up the hill to here. Actually, I don't want to do that. That's ridiculous, because if I'm on level 2, the Charger could see me. Actually, everybody could see me. So I am going to sprint him around to here. All right, so there's that. Over to the Capellan side next. The Enforcer, I'm doing it, making magic happen. I'm going to move this guy 8 inches. Let me see, where's that put him? Like just beyond this little car here. And so that puts him right within 3 inches of the objective, which means they are now claiming the objective unless I move somebody in there to contest it. Okay, so the last mech to move here is Hydra in her Caesar. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my chances here. If I had a kill shot, I think in that regard, then I would definitely want to stand still. But in this case, I'm just going to move the Caesar really to here, I think. And yeah, that puts me within range of the objective. I wish there was something better I could do, but unfortunately my lance is spread out everywhere. So I have limited options here tactically. I mean, the Capellans are on their heels, but they can coordinate their fire a lot better. So we'll see how the dice fall in the shooting phase. Guys, that's coming right up now. All right, starting with the Death Commandos, the Locust firing at that Wolfhound. It's at long range, so it's going to need 9s to hit. Wolfhound is moving pretty fast there. Here we go, looking for a 9. All right, so next up we have this Charger. Was looking at the Whitworth, but really I want to go for this Caesar. I'm going to play the long game. You know, the Enforcer can't shoot. I'm still at long range, so I'm only going to be able to do 2 points, but I think next round that Charger should get into medium range, and that damage jumps to 4 dice at that bracket. So basically this shot here, it's fairly open, no cover, so just needs a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 here at long range. Here we go. Unbelievable. This Charger cannot hit the broadside of a battle mech. Last up is this Griffin, indirect firing across to the Caesar, being spotted by the Enforcer. Needs a 10 though, IF1. Here we go. No good. So the Capellans whiff, not so great. The Cadets, can they capitalize? Let's see. Here we are on the side of the Robinson Battle Academy. The Cadets have some decisions to make. This quick draw, looking at this Locust, wants to do some damage. Is at medium range, which is the sweet spot, but would be shooting through 1.5 inches of forest. So rounds up, it'd be a +2, plus another 1 for the Locust to actually being in a forest. So that's a +3 modifier. We'd need 11s to hit. Or I can indirect fire with the Wolfhound spotting, and I would only need a 9 to hit, but the difference is 1 damage versus 3. Do the math, guys. I'm not sure. I think I'm going to try for the 11 3 times and hope for the best. So here we go. Chain firing. Wouldn't it have been sweet? Ugh. Nothing. All right, so the quick draw misses. The Locust lives to fight another day. That's a good thing for those Capellans. All right, so Hydra, the Lance Captain, barking out orders here. She decides to switch targets and fire on that Charger. Line of sight is blocked by this hill to the Enforcer, so we are going to double down on that Charger, see if we can punch through, maybe do some damage here. The Caesar's going to start, does 3 points of damage at long range, and she is going to need just a 6, if my math serves me right. Here we go. So that's it, 3 points of damage. That Charger getting rocked, taking some damage. Love it. The Whitworth slap shot, stationary, locking on with his LRMs, raining down on the Charger, long range, but also needs 6s courtesy of that stationary bonus. Here we go. Just 1, but still 4 points to the Charger, not too shabby. So that, I believe, wraps up the shooting for turn 5. Still nobody dead, but talk about scoring. We have 1 objective contested and 1 firmly in control here by that Wolfhound. Each team controlling their own HQ, so that means that the Cadets are going to be going up by 1 point, so it's going to be 5 points to 4. All right, guys, it is turn 6. House Davian, the Cadets, making the Federated Sons proud here. Win initiative again. The Capellans on their heels a bit here. The Griffin, sort of the fulcrum of the plan, crippled down to just 2 points of structure. Thankfully, no critical hits, but really, if anything hits it, it's probably going to be destroyed. Now, the Locust took a risk last turn. That did pay off. Well, at least it didn't get it killed. It wasn't able to connect and do any damage, but I think there are a few things that are certain, and that is I absolutely either need to delete the Wolfhound or I need to get rid of the Caesar. So those are my 2 primary targets for this turn, hoping to really just punish that Caesar and take control of the fire base out here on the left side. So I think the first thing we're going to do is we're going to move the Charger, and the goal again is to get this Charger into medium range. Now, I very much regret moving them up on this level 1 rise here, but it does give me some tactical options. I don't want to have to spend the 1 to move down, so I'll stay up on the ridge line, get it to like here. All right, so on the Cadet side here, let's think about what we've got going on. The Wolfhound really needing to stay alive and stay in control of that objective. I could potentially try to bait the Locust out of the woods. Whatever happens there, the quick draw is still going to pursue. I'm not going to jump across and support this Caesar because, again, I'm confident that that quick draw could take a 2-on-1 with the Griffin and the Locust and come out on top. The Whitworth back here probably going to continue to hold down the base, but I'm getting a little squirrely. Not sure if I want to hold him still yet. I may even want to move him forward a little bit, get up on the hill a little bit so I can see over this this central rise, kind of moving him here. So I don't know if I want to start there. I think I am going to start with the Wolfhound and just move him a little bit around here. Now, that Locust, again, does 1 point at long range, 2 at medium. The Wolfhound has 2 points of armor left. To be real smart about this. So I want to keep the Locust as far away from me as I possibly can, but I do need to stay within 3 inches of this fire base. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to move him here. All right, so I want to leave the Enforcer alone for now because he has jump jets. I could potentially get a rear arc shot on that Caesar or jump him, out of line of sight maybe, or cut down on the angles from the Whitworth. So I want to hold off on that enforcer. That's going to be an important part of my overall plan here. What I can do here is move the Griffin like this. So he walks 5, I can move him about 2.5 in the woods. So the maximum distance is like here. So I could put the Griffin here. I would still take a penalty of 1 shooting out of the woods, but I would potentially be able to hit at extreme range that Caesar. All right, so back on this side of the board here, that Charger scares me. You know, Slapshot can take 4 points to the armor and still be okay. So realistically, I could eat an alpha from that Charger, but if that Enforcer double teamed the Whitworth, they could take it out pretty quick. In that regard, I think what I'm going to do is push up with the quick draw. I'm going to force a decision with that Locust. So we're going to keep moving here, except this time I'm going to swing out a little bit. I've learned my lesson from last time. This will provide me with the most angles of fire. So even if that Locust decides to move down the forest, you know, this way, I would still not be shooting through multiple inches of woods terrain. So mark him up with his TMM. Back to the Capellans. I said it before, I'll say it again. I think initiative is probably the most important thing in the game. You could have all the best mechs. If you get outmaneuvered, I mean, it's troublesome. And I feel like I'm getting outmaneuvered right now. So the one thing that I can do that occurred to me with this Locust is sprint past and get in the rear arc of this quick draw. Now I'm not going to shoot the quick draw, but I could, you know, in fact, shoot the Wolfhound if I really wanted. I could potentially move 7 inches to about here, or, you know, 6, and then move 1 over. So I could actually be almost in base to base with the quick draw. That would put me within medium range of that Wolfhound. Now if I take the Wolfhound out, again, that really cuts down on the Grenadier, not the Grenadiers, the Battle Academy's lead. So here we go. That's what we're going to do. We're going to go 6 inches to here, and then move 1 over to there. I am intentionally going to put myself in base-to-base contact with the quick draw. You know, always think about all of the rules in play. When you're in base-to-base, you can't shoot at that target cannot shoot at you. I don't want the quick draw using its rear weaponry to hit the Locust in the back. That would be bad. So I think this is a wise move, and now that Locust can draw a nice clean line of sight to that Wolfhound and maybe finish it off if I get a lucky shot. Okay, so back on the side of the Battle Academy, here's what I'm thinking. I need to destroy the Enforcer. I have to take this mech out. I want to try at least. So I need to figure out where it's moving so that the Whitworth can draw a line of sight, because if it moves up, I can move the Whitworth back and arc shots over. If it moves to the side, you know, I can move there. So that really means I need to move Hydra and her Caesar first. What I want to do is move her out here. Now, here's the other decision point. The other decision point is we can forget it. And, you know, I could move her back here to get the Enforcer out of line of sight and try to take out the Charger, but I think I need to get rid of that Enforcer because the odds of that Wolfhound surviving are not very good. So I want to move her to here. I need to make sure that I'm still within, 3 inches of that objective, which I am. So that's about as good as it's going to get. So I'm a little tactically constrained here because the Enforcer has to be within a 3-inch radius of this fire base here in order for me to claim it. I can only move 5 inches if I want it to shoot, but I really want to try to put that hill in between myself and that Whitworth. So if I calculate where the Whitworth can go, at most it could get out here and maybe draw a line of sight over here. So I'm really only going to move 1 inch. I'm just going to step on this decorative vehicle here. I'm only going to move it 1 inch, and I'm going to try to keep that central hill here between my Enforcer and the Whitworth. Okay, so I need to take a look here, some Model I type thing. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to mark where the Whitworth started. That way I can move him back, so I'm going to be moving him around a little bit to see. So like here I can get more than can see his hips and up, so I could definitely hit him from there. He would have partial cover. I would be at long range. So just putting the Whitworth back where it was, I'm going to move it 4 inches to here, and we're gonna stick with that original plan. I'm going to double down on that enforcer and see if I can take it out of the fight. So now all of the units have moved. It's going to get crazy. We'll see what happens. We'll see where the luck falls. Shooting for turn 6 coming right up. Here we are on the Capellan side. So we know this Locust is going to be firing at that Wolfhound, but you know what, guys? I'm going to save the most cinematic for last. So we're going to triple up on the Caesar. We're going to start here with an extreme range shot from the Griffin, the commander, all the way across there, extreme range. So going to need a 7, I believe, is all I'm going to need, because again, it's a skill 2 pilot, just 1 for the TMM, and then 4 for the range using the long range targeting rules, the optional rule in the back of the new Commander's Edition. So here we go, need 7s to hit. Nail it. So 2 points of damage from that crippled Griffin all the way across to that Caesar. This could be bad news if that Caesar's armor does not hold out. Alright, so the Charger firing across, just in a standoff with that Caesar, also needs 7s to hit, is actually not in medium range. So the unfortunate truth here is that the Caesar moved in such a way that it is actually just over. It's at 13 and change. So I'm only going to be doing 2 points of damage. I was really hoping to fire this, but such is life. Here we go, 7s.
Engine shielding is breaking up.
Gets them both. So that's 2 more points of damage to the Caesar. Armor is stripped. It's up to the Enforcer now to deliver the death blow. Can it happen? Here we are, the Enforcer. Just coming around that building, unloading all of its guns into the smoldering chassis of the Caesar. Now the Caesar has 3 structure points left. The Enforcer can only do 2, no overheat. It's unfortunate, but still only needs a 5 to hit. Again, actually I'm sorry, a 6 to hit. So 3 for the skill, 4 for the TMM, and then 5, 6 for medium range. So needs 6s to hit. Here we go. Just 1. Alright, so either way it wasn't enough to kill the Caesar. We knew that, but we were looking for the critical hit. Here it comes.
Critical hit. Weapon destroyed.
Here we are. The epic finale of the Capellan turn. The Locust firing. The little Locust 1M. It's so adorable. Still does 2 points of damage. 2 LRM-5s and a medium laser. Screaming in at this crippled Wolfhound. Only has 2 pips left. I need 8s to hit. Here we go, guys. Can the Locust finish off the Wolfhound?
Critical hit. Ejecting.
That is... could not script a better ending. Even if he didn't kill him, he still would have generated a critical hit from rolling 12, or A12, and then also the internal structure damage there. Wow, that is a tide turner. The Wolfhound knocked out of commission. Can the Cadets strike back? We'll see. Tragedy on the side of the Robinson Cadets. So, the Wolfhound destroyed, sprinted, cannot shoot. The quick draw, I thought about indirect firing into that Locust, but I can't because I'm base to base with it. You cannot target a mech or a unit that you're in base to base with. So it looks like everything's going to come down to this side of the board. Maybe what we can do is take out that Enforcer, or at least cripple it enough that we can kind of send it packing. So we'll see. We're going to start here with the Caesar, looking for 4 points of damage on the on this Enforcer here. So remember, that weapon hit that it took does not take effect until next turn. So needs 2, 4, 6. yeah, this could be this could be a turning point. So just 2 points of damage to that Enforcer. What can Slapshot do? I don't know. Definitely can see the Enforcer. It's going to be a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 needs 8s to hit. 9s with cover. Nails it. All right, so 2 more points to that Enforcer.
Oh yeah, I hope that hurt.
All right, so not internal. What an incredible rally for the Capellans this turn. 1 Federated Sun mech destroyed. They lose the point on that objective. Each team just scoring 1 this turn. That means that the Battle Academy still leading by 1 objective point. I don't know, things are looking pretty grim. This flank about to collapse. I think the quick draw is definitely in control over here. I don't know, the Charger, the Enforcer, not looking great, but can the damaged Caesar, now with a weapon hit, can it really stand up to the barrage? Guys, turn 7 coming up. Stay tuned, you're not going to want to miss it. Wargamers, it is turn 7. This is one for the books. I really like this mission. It's been a lot of fun to play, but we are not out of it yet. So the Battle Academy, 1 initiative. I wish I had recorded this one. I had rolled ties 3 times in a row, and then on the 4th roll, the Federated Suns managed to win. So that's critical for this scrum that's happening right here, because if the Capellans had won, that Locust would have easily outmaneuvered the quick draw, but now I get to move that quick draw last, which is most likely what I'll be doing, unless I decide to move the Locust early, which I probably won't. So I think what I'm going to do is plant this Griffin. That's going to be my first move. Now remember, at any point when I have twice as many units, which will only happen on the last move, that's when I need to move 2 versus the Federated Suns 1. So for now I only have to move 1 mech. Going to move the Griffin onto the Battle Academy. Alright, so I like where the Whitworth is mostly situated here. The only thing that I would potentially want to do is move it forward. I don't precisely know what that's going to do to its line of sight here, so I'm going to use my handy dandy House Davian marker and slip it under the base there. I can be this far away from the base and still claim, so I can basically move it to there, maybe a little bit further up. What does that do to my line of sight? So I can still see pretty clearly. It actually gives me a little bit more. If that Enforcer decides to move forward, I would get a little bit more, probably it would mitigate the cover entirely. So I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to plant, move him up there and just drop the TMM on him. All right, onto the Capellans. Okay, so the Capellans have 3 mechs left. Davian has 2, so still only need to move 1 mech. I think the obvious thing here is that I want to move this Charger. The question is, I can keep it on level 1 terrain here, kind of move it to here. All right, here we are, Caesar. This thing only has 2 pips left, so even if I pull back off the objective to try to get out of 12 inches of this mech, it may make the difference between life and death, and I'd rather keep the mech alive. They're gonna capture this no matter what I do, I think, this turn. I could potentially, if I blow up the Enforcer, that would be ideal. So what I think I'm going to do is just move, shortest distance between a point type of thing. I'm going to just go 4 inches away from this Charger, just like that. So now I am outside of medium range of the Charger, which is good. He may decide to, well, he's out of medium range there as well, so that's a good thing. So that's a smart play. I would rather abandon that objective again. I'll give them the OP. I can always get it back over here with the quick draw, or even better, potentially take that Griffin out and get the HQ. So we'll see. Over to the Capellans, they are going to need to move both their remaining mechs this turn. The Enforcer really does not give a crap whether it's at long, medium, or short range. It does the same amount of damage. So what I need to do is figure out how I can mitigate the amount of damage going in. Now the unfortunate reality is I wanted to put him behind these water tanks here to block line of sight from the Caesar, but I would be out of the 3 inches. I would need to have his base here. Now that may be enough to give me a little bit of cover, and it's probably my best move regardless. So I'm going to do it, but I'm not confident it's actually going to give me any real cover against the incoming fire from that Caesar. So I'm going to play a little bit of a defensive strategy here. I'm going to move a full, I have to pay to go up, I believe. Either way, I don't really want to make his full move. I want to move him here because I need to be within 3 of this thing. So just in case I lose the HQ somehow, I want to be here, and I'm going to face him forward. This way I can shoot the quick draw in the case that it leaves its back exposed or decides to pursue the Griffin. All right, so exciting news. What I can do is, I don't know if I can capture the objective, but I can definitely contest the headquarters this turn. And I can do that by just jumping into the woods, which means I can still potentially shoot. So, sorry I'm a little bit in the shot here, but if I move the quick draw to here, I am within 3 inches of that. I cannot see the Griffin, so what I'm going to do is turn around, and I'm going to just cheat a little bit forward just so I'm in the maximum distance within the HQ, and I'm going to fire at that locust most likely this turn. I will take a penalty of 1 for shooting through 1 inch of woods, and the TMM on that locust is high to begin with, but I think it's all worth it. Again, taking that penalty for jumping, I'm probably going to need like 12s to hit, but at least I'm contesting that HQ. Next turn I can make another jump move, maybe take that Griffin out. It's literally all alone back here, and my quick draw has no damage. Shooting, turn 7. Guys, it's coming right up. Locust firing down on that quick draw. The Locust is at medium range. It's shooting through just 1 inch of forest, but the quick draw also in a forest hex, if you will, so that it's going to be a +2 in total. Basically comes out to a 10 to hit. So I'm going to chain fire these guys one at a time. God, this Locust is on fire. That is a critical hit and a point of damage. We're just going to roll for the critical hit now before we move on to the second point of damage. Here's the critical hit roll.
Critical hit, engine.
3. That is an engine hit on a mech. Unbelievable. Now the second attack. That's a miss. So one of the unintended benefits of moving back away from that charger is that it actually put the Griffin out of range. So no shooting for that Griffin. So we're going to roll right up here into the meat grinder, the Crucible, the Enforcer, the Charger, firing down at Hydra in her Caesar. This could be the end. So the Enforcer is going to need, I think, just 6s at medium range. Here we go. Gets them both. That's 2 points.
Enemy mech
onto that
destroyed.
Caesar. That is a destroyed mech. So that means the Charger now can change its focus. As the Caesar goes up in flames, the Charger torso twists, fires its long-range weaponry at that Whitworth. Needs a 7. Here we go. Gets it. So 2 points to the Whitworth. This whole back line is crumbling fast. The cadets are in real trouble. What are they going to do? Let's find out. This quick draw got nuked in midair by this Locust, finding a hole in the armor, dealing a critical engine hit. So now the quick draw is firing back. It needs 11s. Awful. But I will be chain firing, so I have 3 opportunities as I'm at medium range. Here we go. Maybe. Oh, God. One was so close, but yet so far away. The Locust, just an excellent pilot here, dodging, weaving, so that quick draw can't connect. Took a lot of damage this turn with that engine hit. That could hurt. That could even up the score when it tries to go brawl with the Griffin. Guys, moving on now to the other side of the field. Battle Academy cadets, both of them planning on shooting that Enforcer, but I'm going to make the intelligent decision of starting with the Caesar because the Caesar does have the potential of one-shotting this mech, and if that's the case, then the Whitworth can then turn on the Charger. So the Dying Breath of Hydra, here we go. Now she only does 3 damage at medium range because of that brutal weapon hit. So I'm looking for 6s, fire control still intact. Can I get some luck?
Hostile destroyed.
Also a critical hit in there, but it doesn't matter. So the Enforcer and the Caesar both dead on that flank. And now the Whitworth staring down the battered Charger. Slapshot, the last man on this side of the field here. The cadets just down to 2 mechs. The Capellans at 3 mechs. Can he take them out? I don't know. It's critical. We need to get at least 2 points of damage to punch through the armor and get a critical hit. That would be huge, but it really requires me to double up on the 7. So here we go. I need a good roll. Need a good roll on this pilot die. Nothing. Just get 1 point of damage. It's no critical hit. Ugh, that hurts. But at least we prevent them from scoring the point over there. But looks like that Locust is in firm control of that objective over there. So that means that the Robinson Battle Academy scores 1 for defending at least one of their bases. The Capellan HQ contested by the Quick Draw, and the fire base belonging to the Federated Sons now firmly in the grasp of the Death Commandos. So each team walking away with 1 objective point. Fed Sons still up by 1. Looks like we're going to go into turn 8. It's turn 8, guys. We'll have to see. This could be the one that decides the game. This has been a very close match on both sides. So the Capellans lost initiative again. I mean, they have not had a good stretch here. And so I think what I'm going to be doing is starting with the Locust. And I'm going to move the Locust up and over the hill to here because this 1 point is very important to me. If I lose the HQ and I take the fire base, or the HQ stays contested and I take this fire base, I'm still collecting 2 points. So holding this down, I think, is critical. And I'm going to hope that the Griffin can somehow survive the attack from the Quick Draw. All right, so the Quick Draw, probably the most important mech on the field right now for the Robinson cadets. The Whitworth does not necessarily need to engage with that Charger. I also definitely do not want that Charger getting within 12 inches of me. So the Charger has a hard decision to make. It's either going to have to come and approach the Whitworth and try to take my back HQ, or very handily secure that objective down there. Either way, I want to make sure that the Whitworth is far enough away. So I know this Charger can move 3. I know its medium range is 12, so that's going to be 15 inches. So I'm looking for what will put me outside of 15 inches, and that's like this line here. So if I take my Whitworth and I position him here, that's still within 3 inches of the base, and I should be safe if that Charger decides to come straight at me. And by safe, I mean I'll be out of the 4 dice range. Now, if that Charger does move down the hill, it's so tall, I should be able to send some missiles over the hill at long range. So I feel like that's a very smart move with the Whitworth. There are 2 mechs left, both have to move. The Griffin really needs to stay, I think, put here on this objective. I could, attempt to move him off and engage the Whitworth, but even if I did that, I still would not pick up enough points to get ahead on this turn. All right, so after running all of the numbers here, I came to the unfortunate realization that there's no way I can keep this Quick Draw out of short range while also staying within range of contesting my own headquarters here. So I think the best move that I can do is to jump the Griffin to here. That's going to put me outside of DFA range. It could potentially, just on the edge of short. but that's the furthest I could get away. If I'm any closer, I do risk that DFA, and they're not actually that hard to hit in this game, unlike Classic, and it would just disintegrate this mech. So I'm going to jump to here, and we're going to make the quick draw shoot and hopefully build up that heat. I'm going to hopefully put some woods in between me and the quick draw. We'll see. All right, so the other decision that I need to make is with this charger. So I think that I need to go for the easy points and try to engage the Whitworth at range. If I come barreling up over this hill, I'll have no cover. I'll only be, I still won't be in medium range. So I think I just need to take the safe route here. And in fact, I think what I'm going to do is jump with the charger to here, try to claim maybe partial cover. It puts me well within the objective. Seems to be the best move for now. All right, so last up is this quick draw. This is going to be an interesting play here. So the Griffin just within 3 inches of its headquarters, and I could do a couple of things. So I toyed with the idea of just walking and not jumping. So if I did that, I would get basically in base to base with the headquarters here. I would be shooting through about. I would get a +2 to my gunnery, to my target number, I should say, shooting at this Griffin. But I wouldn't have that jump penalty, and I don't really care about getting my TMM up at this point, because I got full armor on the quick draw. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take that move. I'm going to get the quick draw to about here. It does put me just at 4 inches to the Griffin. So hopefully I can at least do a couple of pips. And I want to keep him at medium range. I mean, I really wanted to get within, I want him in medium range for my damage, but ideally the Griffin at short range does a little bit less damage, so 6 of one, half of another. I guess this is about as good as it's going to get. I mean, this is really, unless everybody misses, this is going to be very pivotal. The final moments here of this crazy simulation. Will the cadets pass or fail the final exam? Turn 8 shooting coming right up. Gleaming black armor of the Death Commandos, staring down this quick draw as it bounds through the forest. The forest is going to confer a total of +3 to this roll. So this Griffin's going to need 9s to hit. Not an easy deal. And I think I'm going to go for broke here because honestly, nickel and diming this quick draw is not going to make a difference. So hoping for a big pile of die. Here we go. But, oh no, not bad. It is bad actually. It looked good. But only 1 point of damage, guys. So I guess it's better than nothing, but it's not going to be enough to stop the implacable advance of the quick draw there on the headquarters. Onto the Charger. Let's see what he can do to that little Whitworth. Charger lobbing some missiles over the hill. What can he do here? He jumped. All sorts of modifiers piling up. Needs 9s to hit. Here we go. Going for broke. Now the Whitworth only has 1 point of armor. Only 1 point. So I'm going to need both of them to land to go internal. This sounds familiar. Doesn't get any. Oh, God, awful. So the Whitworth making out like a bandit over there. Now the cadets get to return fire. Is this going to be the telling turn? Let's see. All right, not much thinking to do here. Slap shot, sighting down the Charger. At long range, so no opportunity to overheat. It's gonna only need 3, 4, 5. Needs 8s. Needs 8s. Here we go. Right, because the increased TMM from jumping. Ugh. But we will be internal here if we get anything. And we got nothing. Unbelievable. I should stop jinxing myself at the beginning of these rounds. So. Locked in an eternal duel here. Well, here we are. I just did the math. It's not looking good. Quick draw needs 10s to hit, and that's courtesy of that increased TMM from the jumping, plus 2 inches of woods. So, lots going on there. I will be firing. It's going to be taking on a point of heat, but if I can land just 2 of these, if I can get lucky, it's the end for the Griffin. So here we go. Shot number 1. Shot number 2. Oh, God. Come on. Come on now. Here we go. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Well, like I said at the beginning of the turn, it would be pivotal unless everybody missed, which is essentially what happened. So, turn 9 coming up. All right, guys, it is turn 9, and big things happening here. So, at the end of last turn, the Capellans scored 2 points to the Federated Suns 1. So it is now a tie game again, and the Capellans won initiative. Starting out with the Whitworth, I'm going to save the quick draw for last, although I'm sure they're going to do the same with the Griffin. So essentially, what I need to do is move my Whitworth here so that I'm still within 3 inches of this objective. And even if the Charger moves up, I'm as far back as I possibly can be to avoid that medium range fire. So we're going to mark them and move on. All right, so at this point, the Capellans do have to move 2 units. So the first one is the Locust. It's going to be stationary, I think. I don't think I could ever get within 21 of this Whitworth. It would need to be, no, I cannot. So the Locust is just going to hang out there. The Charger. What do I want to do with the Charger? Well, I think I want to do what was expected, which is keep him within 3 of this objective, but try to get him as close as I can. Can't get him in medium, but I can move him here. So as close as we can get him. Have some decisions to make. The quick draw does have 1 point of heat. I could just be a jerk and move into the woods. I had thought about jumping to here, and then basically the Griffin would either have to come into me, but I don't know. I think what I'm going to do is, since I have that 3-inch depth from this line, I'm just actually going to move to this side of the building. The Griffin. I still need to keep this mech within 3 of the objective. Now realizing that ideally I would want to get within short range of that quick draw to minimize the damage. And I'm going to jump as well to get my TMM up. So I'm going to move the Griffin right to here. That is within 1 inch, clearly contesting the objective. It will make my shot a little bit harder, but I'm hoping that the bump in TMM will keep this Griffin alive. I really don't see what other options I have. Shooting is coming right up. Whitworth kicking it off for Slapshot, trying again, locking with his LRM-10s, firing, hoping for a hit. This time only is going to need 7s, so a little bit better. Remember, anything at all will deal a critical hit. Here we go. Alright, so this is a 5 up here, so that's 2 points of damage and a critical hit. That's what we needed. Can we get lucky?
Critical hit. Weapon destroyed.
6. So I believe a 6 is a weapon hit. So that could be huge in keeping this Whitworth alive, especially as that Charger closes in if it decides to do so. Alright, the quick draw. The Griffin. Circle of death around this HQ. Lasers and missiles sailing into each other's armor. The quick draw needs 2 points, 2 hits to kill the Griffin, but really only 1 to put it in forced withdrawal, which then it would not be able to contest. So this is it. If the quick draw misses everything here, it's over. But if the Griffin does take even just 1 point of damage, it's going to be forced to retreat from the field. Could still damage that quick draw on the way out, but we're going to be chain firing, guys. I need 9s to hit, courtesy of all the crazy heat penalties and jumping buffs and everything else going on. So I just need 1 9. Can I get it? That's a definitive no. Oh my god. It's a nail biter. There it is. There it is. So we got 1 hit on the Griffin. The Griffin is in forced withdrawal. That will also be a critical hit. We could just kill it outright. That would be big.
Score 1 for the Joker.
7. A 7. So a 7 is an MP hit, but this is good news because I'm going to score those points, and the quick draw's armor still looking very good. This could be a tipping point. Guys, the Capellans are going to be firing back in just a second. Don't go away. We're going to start with the Griffin firing back into the quick draw as it retreats. 2 points of damage at this short range. So the Griffin not as effective here as he is at longer ranges, but doesn't need a whole lot to hit here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is all I need. Here we go. Actually, I need 8, so I lied because he jumped. But regardless, that is a complete and utter whiff. Probably obliterates a tree in front of him. Moving on to that Charger. The last hope. All right, the Charger just 820 LRMs, weapons destroyed. Of course, that won't take into account this turn, or won't take effect this turn, I should say. So still doing 2 damage at long range. Needs 7s. Here we go. Just gets 1 point on that Whitworth. It's not internal, just left with 1 pip of armor and 3 structure. So that Whitworth's still very healthy. The Charger, 2 points of structure away from being enforced withdrawal. So we're going to take a look at this and assess whether or not it makes sense to go to turn 10. From an objective point perspective, Capellans have 1 and 2 firmly in control of both fire bases, but the Cadets controlling both headquarters. So that means the Cadets are going to pull ahead by 1 point as the enemy HQ is worth 2 objective points. So the FedSun's collecting 3 this turn, the Capellans collecting only 2. Here it is, the simulation of the Robinson Battle Academy coming to an end. The instructors declaring the Cadets victorious, having passed their exam and defeating the Capellan adversaries in the simulator. So at the end of the day, I think I could have played it out maybe another turn, but it would have quickly devolved into a runaway game where the Cadets just kept racking up those points. So let's go to the after-action report. Stay tuned.
Congratulations, you're now full-fledged members of the armed forces of the Federated Sons. Hell yeah!
Oh, you know it, baby.
Well done, team.
Alright guys, there you have it, 150-ish PV of Alpha Strike tactical report action just for you. So that was a pretty fun game. It was the first time I have played Conquest, so it was interesting to see that in action. I really enjoyed the 2 bases, and I thought that there was a lot of sort of tactical depth to deciding, when to push up with your forces, when to hold back. I can see this in Classic being really interesting, as well as bigger games in Alpha Strike when you're playing 8 units or 12 units or something along those lines, because obviously that opens up a ton more options. As far as the forces went and the execution, early in the game, I think that the Federated Sons had the upper hand. That quick draw, I believe, was able to deal a pretty telling blow to the Griffin, knock it down to just 2 structure points very early in the game. I think the Whitworth laid in some missiles on it as well. So that whole sort of flank and bait and switch maneuver that I was trying to pull did not necessarily work as well as I had hoped. The Federated Sons, it took more of a spread out formation in this, and I think the mission type forces you to do that. Because again, you really want to try to control both flanks, and of course have something defending your central HQ. But I think they did it pretty well. I think the Wolfhound was able to get out there. It sucks that Locust rolling 666 just took the thing out, and it was just taking damage all game, just from everybody. The thing really had a really bad day at the office for the Wolfhound overall. Whitworth, always a great mech. I love it in Classic. I love it in Alpha Strike. It's just a solid mech for what you pay for. I thought the quick draw was actually surprisingly good, although I will say I'm very disappointed in the fact that it doesn't do more damage at long range. It doesn't have extreme range, and its short range is very weak, surprisingly. Was hoping for more, but at the end of the day, I think still a really good mech, especially with the speed. I wanted more out of the Caesar. I think it was out on that flank. I think it did what it could, but I always forget the XL engines and how fragile they are, whether it's an Alpha Strike or Classic. Just, you know, a few hits and they really can pop pretty easily. And then on the Capellan side, I thought the Lance was real good. The Locust was the MVP. Did a heck of a lot more than I expected, and in fact was really expecting to pull him up the left side, right where that road was, but he ended up back on the right flank covering after that Griffin got pounded, and you know, chased down the Wolfhound, killed the Wolfhound, put some damage in on that quick draw, the engine hit, which, you know, could have made a difference and might have actually, but you know, at the end of the day, still was able to put the Griffin in withdrawal, and so the Cadets won that match. But guys, would love your feedback on this. You know, did you like it? Was it cool? Obviously, we have some new things graphically, and also, guys, some new Death from Above custom soundtrack action, both in the beginning and, of course, you just heard some more at the end there. So pretty cool stuff. We have several more tracks in production and also already done. I really love them all. They're really good. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, give us a like, leave a comment, all that good stuff. Check us out on Facebook. Check us out on Instagram at DFA Wargaming. Check out our website, www.dfawargaming.com, battlytics.com, all that good stuff. So thanks again. Have a great night. Hope you enjoyed our first tactical report. Hope you guys are staying safe during all the madness, and stay tuned for more. Always great stuff coming from Death from Above Wargaming. Have a great night, guys.